Across the remote islands of Vanuatu, everyday life begins long before the tropical sea turns bright blue. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Small boats rest beside the shore. Vendors prepare produce for a market that may be hours away, while children leave home early enough to reach school before the heat settles over the road. This is a nation scattered across the South Pacific, where communities are separated by open water, steep volcanic land, and distances that cannot always be measured by a straight line on a map. But how do people really live across these islands? What happens when the ocean is not simply a view, but a road, a source of food, a boundary, and sometimes the only connection to the wider country? And why, despite the distance and uncertainty, do so many people continue to build their lives close to the same land and water that shaped the generations before them? Vanuatu is an archipelago of more than 80 islands stretching through the South Pacific. The capital, Port Vila, sits on the island of Efate. Farther north, Luganville on Espiritu Santo is the country's other major urban center. Between them lie coastal settlements, inland villages, gardens, schools, landing places, churches, markets, and long stretches where daily life remains closely tied to the natural environment. From the air, Vanuatu appears as a chain of green land surrounded by enormous blue space. On the ground, that space changes everything. A journey that looks short on a map may depend on a boat schedule, a road that becomes difficult after heavy rain, or a river that rises before a child reaches school. Supplies do not simply appear on a shelf. Produce does not simply arrive at a city market. Behind each movement is a chain of people carrying, waiting, loading, unloading, and adapting. Here, geography is not an introduction that ends when the map disappears. It continues through the entire day. On an outer island, morning often begins with sound before light. A rooster calls somewhere behind the houses. Leaves move in the wind. A cooking pot is set in place. Footsteps cross damp ground between a home and a garden. The details vary between islands and communities, but the first hours of the day are often practical. Food must be prepared. Children must get ready. Tools, baskets, and produce must be gathered. Someone may need to reach a roadside, a landing place, a market, or a school before the weather changes. The landscape around a village can provide much of what a household uses, but nothing arrives without work. Gardens require clearing, planting, weeding, harvesting, and carrying. Water must be collected where household systems are limited. Food may be cooked over fire or prepared in ways that use locally available leaves, roots, vegetables, fish, and fruit. This is not a life frozen in the past. Mobile phones, packaged food, imported materials, vehicles, solar equipment, modern schools, and outside employment are all part of Vanuatu today. But access is uneven, and modern convenience often exists beside routines that remain deeply local. A phone may connect someone instantly to a relative on another island, while the physical journey between them still takes hours or days. A shop may sell imported rice, canned food, fuel soap, and building materials, but the reliability and price of those goods can depend on shipping. A household may participate in the cash economy while continuing to rely on gardens, fishing family networks, and exchange within the community. Life here is neither entirely traditional nor entirely modern. It moves between the two, often without drawing a clear line. On southwest Pentecost Island, UNICEF documented 4 children who made an almost 10-kilometer walk every morning to school. They left around 6 o'clock carrying school bags and woven pandanus baskets with food for the day. Their route crossed rivers and climbed through the landscape. During heavy rain, the first river could become swollen and impassable, forcing them to miss school. This story belongs to one particular group of children, not to every student in Vanuatu. But it reveals something larger about distance on the outer islands. Education may be valued deeply, yet reaching it can demand time, endurance, and cooperation before the first lesson even begins. For these children, the route to school is not empty time. They talk, They notice changes in the river. They recognize plants and animals along the way. They move through a landscape that is both an obstacle and part of their knowledge of home. By the time the school bell rings, their day has already become a journey, and when classes end, the same long road is waiting in reverse. The land surrounding many communities is more than scenery. It is a working space. Small-scale agriculture remains important to livelihoods across much of Vanuatu. Root crops, vegetables, fruit, and other food or cash crops may serve different purposes depending on the island and household. Some food stays close to home, some is shared, some is sold locally, some begins a longer journey toward Port Vila, Luganville, or an export market. A garden does not look like a supermarket shelf. Different plants may grow together, shaped by seasoned soil shade, rainfall, family knowledge, and the practical need to avoid depending on a single crop. A productive garden can represent food, income security, and a connection to land at the same time. The sequence begins quietly. A person steps between broad leaves and low-growing plants. A tool enters the soil. A root crop is loosened and lifted. Dirt is brushed away by hand. Produce is gathered into a basket or sack, then carried toward a home, roadside boat truck, or market stall. Every stage adds effort. On a small island, the distance between garden and customer may involve several kinds of movement. Produce might first be carried on foot, then loaded onto a vehicle or boat, then unloaded again before it reaches a table. This is why market prices tell only part of the story. Behind a pile of yams, bananas, island cabbage, coconuts, fruit, or leafy vegetables are hours of work that the buyer never sees. There is also knowledge that cannot be separated from the landscape: when to plant, which slope drains well, where soil holds too much water, which crops tolerate wind, how to store planting material, how to recover after a season of damage, which varieties belong to a particular place. Some of this knowledge is written into agricultural programs and training. Much of it is learned through observation, repetition, and family experience. Food security therefore depends on more than production alone. It also depends on whether farmers can reach markets, whether transport is available, whether roads and landing places remain usable, and whether families can continue adapting to changing conditions. In the city, it is easy to see only the final arrangement: produce grouped by type, colors organized across a table, shoppers moving from one vendor to the next. But the true beginning may be on another island, in a garden that was still dark when the work started. Port Vila Central Market is one of the clearest places to see how rural and urban Vanuatu meet. The market is not simply a destination for visitors looking for tropical color. It is a working economic space shaped by farmers, transporters, vendors, families, and customers. Women form a major part of market trading and the wider informal economy. Some sell produce grown by their households or communities. Others sell cooked food, flowers, crafts, or goods gathered through local networks. The market day may begin with unpacking. Bundles are opened. Root crops are stacked. Fruit is arranged. Leaves are trimmed. Containers are placed beneath tables. A vendor checks the condition of produce after the journey and decides what must be sold first. The sequence is physical and precise. Hands sort by size. A knife removes a damaged edge. A basket is shifted into shade. A customer asks a question in Bislama. Money changes hands. Someone returns for an item they forgot. A child waits beside a table while adults continue working. Around them, the market becomes a stream of short encounters, buying food, exchanging news, asking about transport, discussing prices, meeting relatives, finding out who has arrived from another island. This social function matters because a country made of islands needs gathering places. A market can connect a rural producer to an urban household, but it can also connect people to information, opportunity, and one another. Some market facilities provide accommodation for vendors arriving from outer islands who need to remain while selling their produce. That detail reveals how far the market economy can extend beyond the city itself. For some vendors, selling is not a brief stop between other activities. It can require travel accommodation, long hours, and careful decisions about what to bring, what to spend, and what income must return home. The cash earned at a market table may help pay school costs, transport household supplies, phone credit tools, or materials that cannot be produced locally. Yet a market is never only about money. It is also about visibility. The people who grow food on distant land become present in the center of the capital through the produce they carry. Their gardens, labor, and islands enter the city, one basket at a time. As the morning becomes busier, the market changes rhythm. Voices overlap. Vehicles arrive and leave. Cooked food appears. Shoppers search for ingredients. Vendors adjust to the heat. The colors remain beautiful, but beauty is not the purpose. The purpose is to make the day work. Beyond the market, another system is always moving. Inter-island vessels carry passengers, produce fuel-building materials, packaged food equipment, and messages between communities. For Vanuatu, water transport is not a secondary part of national life. It is one of the main ways people in remote areas reach markets, education, healthcare, employment, and government services. A passenger vessel arriving at an island landing can change the atmosphere of an entire morning. People gather before it appears. Bags and cargo wait near the shore. Someone checks the horizon. Someone else asks whether the vessel stopped at the previous island. Motor sounds travel across the water before the hull becomes clear. Then the quiet landing place becomes active. Ropes are caught. People move toward the boat. Boxes pass from hand to hand. Sacks are lifted. Passengers step carefully across uneven surfaces. Names are called out. Instructions compete with the engine and the water. The vessel is carrying more than freight. It may be carrying medicine mail, school supplies, replacement parts, food for a shop, or relatives returning home. It may also carry crops and products in the opposite direction, leaving an outer island for a larger town or market. This exchange allows the islands to function as one country, but the system remains vulnerable to distance, weather, vessel condition, operating costs, and the commercial limits of remote routes. A heavily traveled route may support more regular service. A small community far from the main centers may wait longer. The schedule written on paper is only one part of the journey. Conditions at sea still matter. This uncertainty shapes behavior. People plan early. They ask for updates. They send goods with trusted contacts. They buy more when transport is available. They postpone plans when it is not. For an outsider, waiting may appear like inactivity. For the people at the landing, waiting is part of the work. They are watching the weather, listening for engines, protecting goods from rain, and calculating what happens if the vessel does not arrive. Air travel links some islands and larger centers, but boats remain essential because they can move passengers and cargo to places and at prices that aviation cannot always serve. The ocean therefore performs two opposite roles. It separates each island from the next, and it creates the route that links them. Along the coast, smaller boats serve another purpose. Fishing continues to support food and livelihoods in many communities, although practices and dependence vary by place. A fishing sequence begins before the catch. Fuel is checked. A container is placed in the boat. Lines, nets, hooks, paddles, or other equipment are prepared. The sea is read through wind, cloud, current, and experience. From shore, the water may appear calm and open. From a small boat, every change becomes more immediate. The boat rises and falls. Salt dries on the skin. The engine or paddle creates a repeated rhythm. The coastline slowly changes shape behind the vessel. Fishing knowledge is practical knowledge. Where to go, when to return, what conditions are safe, how to handle the catch so that it can be eaten, shared, or sold. When the boat returns, the process continues. Someone pulls it higher onto shore. Fish are moved into shade. Equipment is cleaned. The catch is divided according to household needs, community expectations, or the possibility of sale. The sea provides, but it does not provide without limits. Small-scale fisheries must respond to changing weather. Equipment costs pressure on coastal resources and the need to protect future food supplies. This is why the relationship between people and ocean cannot be reduced to a postcard. The sea is beautiful. It is also a place of labor, judgment, uncertainty, and responsibility. In Port Vila, the pace becomes faster. Traffic moves along the roads of Efate. Shops display imported goods. Offices, schools, construction sites, restaurants, telecommunications, tourism businesses, public services, and informal trade create a more concentrated economy. The capital is not representative of every island, but it is connected to nearly all of them. People arrive for education, work, healthcare, business administration, or family reasons. Some remain. Some travel back and forth. Others maintain strong responsibilities to communities elsewhere even after building an urban life. This creates a city with many island connections. A conversation in Port Vila may move quickly from city prices to a garden on another island, from school plans to the next boat, from paid employment to obligations at home. Urban life brings opportunity, but it also changes costs. Food that can be gathered or grown in a village may need to be purchased in town. Housing requires cash. Transport requires cash. Electricity, phone service, school materials, and other expenses become part of a monthly calculation. The city offers convenience, but convenience has a price. This is one reason the market remains so important. It keeps locally produced food within the urban economy and gives rural households a way to earn income from their land and labor. Farther north, Luganville performs a similar role for Espiritu Santo and surrounding areas. It is another point where rural production, shipping services, employment, and movement come together. Yet Vanuatu cannot be understood only through its towns. Most of its physical space lies beyond them, and much of its social life continues through smaller communities. A person may be urban during the work week and deeply connected to village life through family land, language ceremonies, food, and responsibility. The boundary between city and island is more porous than it first appears. Goods move between them, people move between them, ideas move between them, and identity often belongs to both. Language reveals just how local identity can be. Bislama is the national language and one of Vanuatu's 3 official languages alongside English and French. It allows people from different islands and language communities to communicate with one another. It can be heard in markets, transport, government radio shops, workplaces, homes, and everyday conversation. But beneath this shared national language lies exceptional local diversity. Many vernacular languages are spoken across the archipelago. A language may belong to one island, one part of an island, or a network of closely connected communities. This means that language is not merely a tool for exchanging information. It can identify where a person comes from, how knowledge was passed to them, and where they belong within the social landscape. A child may grow up hearing a local language at home, Bislama, in wider community life, and English or French through formal education. The result is not a single cultural voice, but many overlapping ones. This diversity also explains why traditions cannot be described as though every island follows the same customs. The word often used to discuss inherited customs, values, knowledge, and social practices is Kastom. But Kastom is not one performance prepared for visitors, and it is not a museum display standing outside modern life. Its meaning changes across communities. It may be expressed through relationships to land systems of exchange, food preparation ceremonies, dance architecture, oral histories, community leadership, knowledge of plants, or expectations about how people support one another. Some traditions are shared publicly. Others belong to specific groups, places, or occasions, and should not be treated as general entertainment. Vanuatu's sand drawing tradition offers one example of how knowledge can be carried in forms that outsiders may initially misunderstand. A drawing is created with one continuous line traced through sand, volcanic ash, or clay. The finished pattern may appear decorative, but UNESCO describes the practice as far more than visual art. Sand drawings can carry stories, memory relationships, local history, farming knowledge, design song, and other information. Their meaning depends not only on the pattern, but on the knowledge required to interpret it. A single line can therefore hold more than an image. It can become a map of memory. The tradition developed within a region of remarkable linguistic diversity, helping to communicate and preserve knowledge through a form that could be drawn directly onto the ground. Nothing expensive is required, only a surface, a finger, a pattern, and the understanding carried by the person drawing it. This is one of the quiet strengths of life across the islands. Knowledge does not always need a permanent building to survive. It can live in movement repetition, voice gesture, land, and memory. As afternoon fades, another familiar element enters daily life in many parts of Vanuatu. Kava is prepared from the root of the kava plant, mixed with water, and consumed in social spaces commonly associated with the nakamal. The details, customs, and level of formality vary between islands and between rural and urban settings. In towns such as Port Vila and Luganville, nakamals are also places where people gather to drink kava after work. In other communities, the word can refer to a broader meeting place with deeper customary meanings. The atmosphere is often quieter than the market. Light becomes softer. Conversation slows. Coconut shells or serving bowls pass from hand to hand. People sit rather than hurry. For someone seeing only the drink, the deeper function may be easy to miss. The gathering creates time. Time to talk. Time to listen. Time to discuss work, family, travel, local concerns, and events that connect the community. Not every Vanuatu person participates in the same way, and customs differ by place. But the continuing presence of kava and the nakamal shows how social life is organized not only around tasks, but around spaces where relationships are maintained. In a dispersed country, relationships are a kind of infrastructure. They help people share information, find transport care for children, organize work, respond to damage, and support relatives across distance. A road can connect two villages. A boat can connect two islands. But trust connects the people using them. Life in Vanuatu also requires continual attention to weather. Many islands are mountainous and volcanic. Roads may cross steep terrain. Coastal communities face salt wind, heavy rain, and rough seas. Rivers that are easy to cross in 1 hour can become dangerous later in the day. Cyclones, earthquakes, volcanic activity, flooding, and other natural hazards can damage homes, crops, roads, schools, landing places, communications, and water systems. But these events should not be used to define the country only through disaster. The more revealing story is what happens between emergencies. Roofs are maintained, gardens are replanted, food plants are diversified, water is stored, families check on relatives, communities organize labor, farmers protect planting material, transport routes are restored, schools reopen. Resilience is often discussed as though it were a dramatic moment of courage. In daily life, it can be much quieter. It is the decision to plant again, the habit of keeping useful materials, the knowledge of where water flows after heavy rain, the relative who offers space when a house is damaged, the vendor who returns to the market because the household still needs income, the boat operator who waits for safer conditions rather than treating the sea as predictable. These choices are not romantic. They are practical responses developed through experience. The islands are beautiful, but their beauty does not cancel risk. And risk does not cancel the ordinary ambitions of the people who live here. Parents still think about education. Young people still think about work. Farmers still think about the next season. Vendors still think about prices and savings. Families still plan celebrations, visits, repairs, journeys, and futures. Vanuatu is remote from many of the world's largest cities. It is not remote from the hopes of the people living there. Toward evening, the practical movement of the day begins to slow. A boat is pulled farther from the water. Market goods are covered or packed away. Children return along the same roads they walked in the morning. Smoke rises again near homes. Food is prepared from what was grown, caught, purchased, or saved. In one place, the meal may center on root crops and vegetables. Somewhere else, fish, rice, greens, fruit, or packaged ingredients may be added. Urban and rural kitchens look different, but both reveal the same daily question: what can be gathered, afforded, shared, and prepared before night? Families talk about the day: who arrived, who left, whether the boat came, what happened at school, which produce sold, what work remains tomorrow. These conversations may seem small beside the dramatic scale of the Pacific, but small decisions are how island life continues. A nation does not remain connected only through airports, ports, policies, and telecommunications. It remains connected because people remember one another. They carry food to a relative. They send a package on a boat. They host someone arriving from another island. They teach a child a local word. They show a younger person how to recognize a plant, prepare a garden, read the sea, or trace a pattern through sand. Across Vanuatu, the idea of home can include more than one place. Someone may live in Port Vila but speak of another island as home. Someone may leave for education or work and continue to send money, goods, and news back to a village. Someone may spend years away yet still understand identity through land, language, family, and community obligations. Distance changes relationships. It does not automatically erase them. From above, Vanuatu may still look like a collection of small islands almost lost in the largest ocean on Earth. But from within, those islands are filled with roots, footpaths to gardens, roads to markets, river crossings to school, boat journeys between communities, languages carried from one generation to the next, lines drawn through sand, stories connecting people to places that may appear small on a world map, but feel complete to those who call them home. The ocean creates distance, yet it also carries people, food, work, memory, and possibility. The land can be difficult, yet it provides identity as well as livelihood. Modern life brings new tools and opportunities, yet older knowledge remains useful because it was formed in direct response to these islands. This is how people live in Vanuatu, not outside the modern world, not untouched by change, and not waiting to be discovered. They live through movement and patience, through gardens and markets, through boats and footpaths, through many languages and deeply local forms of belonging. What appears remote to the rest of the world is for someone here the center of family memory, responsibility, and everyday life. And perhaps that is the real lesson of these islands. A place does not need to be close to everything to become the center of someone's world. Thank you for traveling with Best Hidden Places. Continue with us into another community where geography shapes the way people live in our 4K travel documentary playlist.